There was an Arab temple and a Jewish temple and a church across the way, lots of religion. Although on the Jewish holidays, a lot of Jews and Arabs would go to the same temple. And there were always funerals nearby with people screaming, walking behind the hearse, beating their breasts, you know. Why did you take my husband now in the prime of his life, you know. They used to argue with God, the Arabs particularly. You know, they'd argue with him. They'd say, why now? You know, I needed him. They called God bad names. And they used to talk to their children in a strange way in Arabic. Like if the child cried all night, the mother would get up and say in Arabic, the devil should take you. You know what I mean? Because the kid was annoying. But nobody looked at it that way. Anyway, they were a bundle of contradictions, people.
Now, Katrin in Walden 3, he says that the Arab Jews were sort of a strange, maybe their culture was a little bit...
They were strange, but they were called Halabi. Halabi is like low class in the old days. If they came from Halabi, they wore Arab garb and they scratched their back against the buildings. You know, they were doing things that was normal in their culture, but in this culture it looked strange.
Now, was it mostly minorities throughout where you lived?
Yes, mostly Italian, Jews, French, but you can always tell what they were by the way they dress. The Italians wore a sort of a hat with a feather in it, and the French had long sideburns. And the Jews, when about 16, 17, they were not allowed to shave, and they had beards. They had black beards, you know. And the Italians were in the ice delivery. They were ice delivery people. They used to deliver ice for the ice box. A man would come and put the ice in the ice box. And then there was a older Jewish men that had rheumatism, and they used to wrap newspapers around their legs, lots of newspapers, to keep the heat in the cold weather. And they have a big heavy coat, which is very uncomfortable. And when they were not allowed to knock at the doors of people, and they used to clap outside the house. And the mother would open the door, and he'd open his coat, and he had thimbles, hairpins. Oh, he was a traveling department store. And he used to walk up 3 floors. He was an older person as a rule, carrying heavy suitcases, plus all the stuff he had pinned on him. He sold used things, thimbles, odd things. And I remember sometimes a mother would call him from the 3rd floor and said, Irving, come up here. And he would come up with his 2 suitcases. And you tell little Jamie that you're going to take him away if he doesn't behave. Oh, Jesus Christ, this poor guy had to walk down with the suitcases. And then there was a woman sitting on the doorstep and fanning themselves in the summer. They had no air conditioning. She was just sitting there fanning herself, and she said, "I'll fire," which is a Jewish expression. I don't know what it means, but I know somebody rang the fire alarm. And they came and they broke the windows and hosed the house down, and there was no fire. It's just a Jewish expression. It's like, damn it, you know, I'll fire, or something like that. I didn't know exactly what it meant. But anyway, it was a very terrible situation when I saw these men with the newspapers wrapped around their legs. I mean, lots of newspapers. They had arthritis, but they couldn't go to a doctor. A doctor's maybe, it was $3 when I was a kid to have the doctor come over your house. He came over your house, he got to know the family. And people used to die in their homes of cancer, and you can hear them screaming. There was no pills they can take to alleviate the pain, and if they could, no one had the money to buy them. and you can hear this guy screaming for 2 weeks in there, and then you'd see a wooden coffin brought over. And I remember all that like imprinting. And all I remember saying to myself, boy, this shit's gotta go, as a kid.